and we have apologies as per, which I cannot read.
Screen so you can see them.
Goes up. Right, we have apologies as listed. I won't read them all. Everyone else can do that, but I will move the acceptance of those apologies.
Second.
By Councillor Simpson. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay, right. Declarations of interest. Oh, confirmation of the minutes. Moved by Councillor Simpson, seconded by Councillor Sayers. All good. All those in favour?
Aye.
There are no petitions. There is no public input. There is local board input, but we could probably wait for the Rodney people to speak just before item number 11, if that's okay. I think there's no problem with that. And we know extraordinary business, notice of motion, so we go to Panuku. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Mine's not working, so I can't imagine.
John, the T-shirt, Tony.
Make sure you're clicking in there.
Good morning, Mr Chair, councillors. Before we start, I'd just like to introduce Pete Johnston. Pete Johnston is one of the development managers at Panuku, and basically all the work that is occurring on council land in Flatbush is the work of Pete Johnston here. So, first item we have on the agenda today is 187 Flatbush School Road. For those who were here last term, you'll remember that lots 1, 3, 4 and 5, 187 Flatbush School Road, were approved for sale in October 2014, and lot 2 was approved for sale to the Ministry of Education in December 2014. Following the resolutions approving the sale of these lots, the Development Program Office and the Community Facilities Business Unit received inquiries from developers seeking to acquire additional land at lots 4 and 5, 187 Flatbush School Road. These developers proposed undertaking local infrastructure works in return for being able to acquire enlarged lots. The land proposed for the enlarged lots was initially proposed as a potential park and open space land. Parks have advised that the additional land proposed for sale is now outside the areas proposed for a neighbourhood park and playground. The Howick Local Board endorsed the proposed disposal of the additional land at 187 Flatbush School Road at its December 2016 meeting. Initially, this was agreed that it was to be a closed tender process, but Panuku and the Development Program Office have subsequently agreed that an open tender process be undertaken. This will enable the developers who have expressed interest in acquiring enlarged lots to submit tenders as part of the tender process, as well as any other interested developer. This will allow for the benefits and merits of all tenders received to be considered and assessed, thus ensuring the process is open and transparent. Happy to take any questions, Mr Chair.
Pete, is there anything you want to add?
No, thank you, Chair.
Councillor Stewart.
Oh, I'd just like to move the recommendation when it comes to that.
Yep.
Thank you for your good
No
work.
question? Do you have a second?
Second.
Councillor Simpson. Yep.
Chris Darby.
Oh, sorry, Chris. Sorry, Councillor Darby.
No, I think there was a second. That's
Okay,
fine.
sorry.
That's fine.
Oh, there are no questions. It seems everyone in agreement, so I'll put that resolution. All those in favour, or those two resolutions? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Against? Right, thank you. Right, next item. Unlock all.
Okay, next report we have on the agenda is the Unlock Old Papatoetoe High Level Project Plan, confirming the disposal of the properties. Now, this was approved by the Planning Committee on 4th of July 2017. The 4 properties were endorsed for disposal by the Planning Committee to enable them to be utilised to achieve urban renewal and housing outcomes as set out in the Unlock Old Papatoetoe High Level Project Plan. This is very much a procedural report for the approving the disposal of these properties by the Finance and Performance Committee. Happy to take any questions, Mr Chair.
Happy to move. I'll second it.
We have a mover and a seconder.
And Stewart.
Welcome, Member Leah. Right, there are no questions, so... Sorry, Councillor Darby, yes?
Look, thank you for this. Just checking, and I take the C from the Finance Committee, and the strategic objectives here are achieving urban renewal and housing.
Yes.
And they are the specific strategic objectives that will be met
Yes.
through the disposal. There are no others, that it is limited to those two strategic objectives.
Through the Chair, with respect to these particular parcels of land, yes.
Okay, and that's clear. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'll put the resolutions. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against? Right. Rocking along, thank you. Right. Mill Road, well, we'll welcome up members of the Rodney Local Board. Everyone can stay there and... So, Brenda and Cameron, do you want to speak first?
Thank you, Mr Chair, but no, we'll just sit alongside the staff for the report and answer any questions for clarification. Right.
Thank you, Mr Chair. I'm sure everyone here knows Ian Stapple from the Waste Solutions Business Unit. Very briefly, again, this will be a property that those who were here last term will likely remember. 31 to 35 Mill Road is a council-owned site which the Helensville Enterprise Trust has operated a recycling centre from, occupying approximately 5,500 square metres. The balance of the site was until mid-2016 leased to Downers. The Legacy Rodney District Council approved the entire site for sale prior to the amalgamation of the Legacy Councils. Upon amalgamation, the site was transferred to ACPL, now Panuku, which undertook its standard property rationalisation process for the site when it realised part of the site was actually occupied by a service use, being the recycling centre. We worked with the Waste Solutions team for some time and we presented on the site, and in June 2015 we jointly presented to the Finance and Performance Committee to subdivide the land and sell 35 Mill Road, and to work with the Rodney Local Board to investigate retaining to retain 5,500 square metres of the site for a recycling centre, and to work with the Rodney Local Board about retaining an additional 300 square metres. In September 2016, Panuku granted a licence to the Trust to temporarily occupy 35 Mill Road, while asbestos removal was being undertaken on 31 Mill Road. While located on the larger 35 Mill Road site, the Trust experienced enhanced operating conditions and increased social and environmental outcomes. Due to this, Waste Solutions and Panuku now recommend that 35 Mill Road is retained to enable the Trust to continue to operate from this site. I will allow Ian Stapple to speak more about this, but very briefly, the financial modelling for the next 10 years calculates that the net benefit to Council supports the retention of 35 Mill Road, despite the Council being able to sell 35 Mill Road in the current financial year for approximately $1.5 million. This analysis includes Panuku's estimate that approximately $4,500 will be released from the proposed sale of 31 Mill Road. Panuku very much supports Waste Solutions' request to retain 35 Mill Road instead of 31 Mill Road, and acknowledge that alternative uses for 35 Mill Road are likely to be limited to vehicle and material storage uses in this light industrial zone, and that building development may be limited by the floodplain and low contamination levels and the uncontrolled fill on the land. I will let Ian Stapple provide any further information on the actual logistics of the operation.
Welcome, Ian.
Thanks, Letitia. Through the chair. I think this is probably a good example about how community recycling centres have actually become more successful than we probably originally anticipated they would be. So over the past year, if you take the Helensville situation, moved site from 31 to 35, it's seen growth in yard sales and shop sales increased by 50%, and vehicle movements increased by 70%. So a larger site has attracted more usage, more revenue, and I think with the right support from council in the early years demonstrates how these sites can become financially self-sustainable, but also generate some fantastic environmental and social outcomes. So just as an example, Helensville currently operating at over 70% diversion of waste from landfill that comes onto site. So every tonne that comes through a trailer or a car boot sale, 70% is reused, resold, or recycled. Some of the best results in New Zealand. So I think it's great that we've been able to work with Panuku, and together the modelling that we've done together demonstrates that the net benefit, as Letitia said to the council, is to retain 35 Mill Road.
Just reading the local board resolutions, what are you actually proposing? It's kind of a little bit ambivalent. It kind of reads as though you're wanting to keep 31 as well as 35, but it doesn't specifically say that.
Through you, Mr Chair, in a perfect world, yes, but as you say, you'll see at the top of that resolution from the 28th of July, it's very much supporting your recommendation here today as far as keeping the Helensville Recycling Centre where they are in that much more optimal and bigger space of 35 Mill Road. So we're very happy with the ELT, with this committee, with Panuku, with Waste Solutions. We're at reviewing this whole situation and coming to these recommendations today.
Well, you're welcome to come anytime,
Cameron, you should stay.
We're very happy with this council, Mr Chair.
So questions of Letitia or Ian? Richard, Councillor Hills.
Thank you, Chair. So basically, yeah, I was confused because it did seem like the board actually supported keeping all of it, but it's good to know that this is what's there. But effectively, it's actually, we're keeping double what the original resolution from the Finance Committee was in 2015.
Through the chair, yes, that's correct.
Double the land. Thank you.
Ian, can you just explain why, on the other side, the Walkworth side of the hills, the Rodney board had Northern Waste Solutions, unless I've got the name wrong, and yet over this side it was done with a community recycling centre. So how did that arise?
Do you want to answer that, Ian? Sorry, through you, Mr Chair, I can answer that. Yep. These initiatives have actually been driven through the community themselves. So Helensville had a existing recycling centre already in place before we came into Auckland Council. And so we actually, again, picked that up as a board and worked alongside them to actually lift their structure, and that's how Waste Solutions came in. We have two particular groups up in the north of Rodney, and they're at the very early stages of investigating and looking at a site and the possibilities. We can't move our communities until they're ready to be moved. So we're just working alongside them to get their structure up first, and then Ian's team comes in and actually supports them along that process.
Very good.
Through you, Mr Chair, I just would like to actually bring you back to, you've just been given out a handout. That actually came straight from the Helensville Recycling Centre themselves. That was their presentation to the board earlier this year. And while our resolution is very clear to retain 35, in an ideal world, I've just pushed the envelope a little bit further. 31 is ideal simply because it's a smaller space. It is presently still set up as the recycling centre because they had to evacuate the site because of the asbestos. And in this handout, there is a map, and it is the Helensville Recycling Centre's vision map of what they would like to do in 31. So they have a vision and they have a goal, and I just would like to bring you back to that there is still a bigger picture around this recycling centre, and that Helensville is a deprivation 8 and Parakai is a deprivation 9. So again, they're employing people, and they're employing people that wouldn't get a job anywhere else. So there is a big economic development opportunity in front of us if we can keep our sights looking at that long-term picture for this particular trust. Thank you.
Councillor Simpson.
Question, if you were to retain 31, would you consider a targeted rate to make the difference that council would benefit from the sale?
The board hasn't had that conversation, but what I can say is that yes, we would consider a targeted rate because we've been considering targeted rates in our local board plan that's just finished having all its feedback received.
So to that end, Panuku, is there a rush here? If the board took it a step further and decided to do, I'm just trying to help. The goal, financial goal is the sale and the money from the sale. If that money could be gained from a different way and the community could meet a recycling objective that, you know, as a region we're promoting and want to ensure, we would be cost neutral.
Through the chair, this is the first time we've heard of this proposal, so we've had no opportunity to investigate, so I can't comment further on it.
Councillor Cooper, and I hear what Brenda is saying, but also just remind members we are trying to sell land as well. We have huge pressures coming up in the LTB. So, Councillor Cooper.
Thank you. My question is around, so the swap is really $1 million shortfall for the goals that we've set for Panuku?
Through the chair, yes, the cost savings will be found in other ways, and I will leave Ian Stubble to explain those. Okay.
Yeah, through the chair. So the modelling has looked at that and that lost opportunity cost. So and we've looked at this as very much as a council group exercise, and it's still a positive benefit, a positive net benefit to retaining 35.
Okay, so I mean, for that reason, I do support it, because I think we've got to more and more look across the family rather than, you know, to find solutions. So as long as we can have some sort of net benefit or no loss, I support it. So I'm sure Councillor Sayers would like to move this, because I'm happy to second it as it is.
Councillor Sayers, are you?
Yes, I'm happy to move that,
Very good. Okay.
Mr Chair, thank you.
Seconded by Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Linda.
Do we have any other speakers?
I guess just take the opportunity, through you, Mr Chair, to acknowledge Member Steele and Member Brewer from the local board to come along and being prepared to sit up here and field questions on this. So thank you for making that effort to come in. I also want to acknowledge the executive leadership team, Panuku and Waste Solutions, because I know there's been a lot of collaboration to get to this win-win solution. And I also want to thank Member Steele for mentioning the Helensville Community Recycling Centre, who benefit from this along with the Helensville community. So I think just a very good outcome any way you look at it, Mr Chair. So thank you. Good stuff.
All right. Well, there is also other land that we're retaining for public access, so I hope that comes to something eventually. So we've got a mover and a seconder. Are there no more questions, no more comments? I'll put the resolutions. All those in favour?
Aye.
Against?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Chair, councillors.
Oh, jeez, I know. Wasted the first 6 years. Can I get John?